Let's start with the most important news of the weekend. Uh, Ty Gibbs ended up winning the All-Star or the in-season bracket challenge. Let's just get that right out of the way, right off the top. I mean, that's the highlight of that race weekend.
Following is a production of the Garage Area.
Welcome into the garage area after the Indianapolis race, the Brickyard 400, where we saw Bubba Wallace end up winning the race. Um, but let's start with the most important news of the weekend. Uh, Ty Gibbs ended up winning the All-Star or the in-season bracket challenge. Let's just get that right out of the way, right off the top. I mean, that's the highlight of that race weekend. Lionel Racing, I believe, is going to make the raced version diecast for that's going to be able to be for sale for the in-season challenge winner. So I think that's incredible. Um, by far the biggest accomplishment by any driver this season. What are your thoughts?
Um, I could care less at this point.
Uh, man, I don't know. I don't really know what to say about it. Like I didn't care about it. I don't know why. There was nothing wrong with it. I didn't have any issue with it. Um, it felt like they made a bigger deal out of it by having Steve Phelps present him the trophy and the whole deal after the race. Um, I don't know, man. It didn't feel throughout the season challenge that it was as big a deal as they made it out to be after the Indy race. Um, I mean, great for him. Where'd he finish? Like 38th? I don't know.
I don't actually don't
Somewhere in the
remember.
20s.
I think he was still on the lead lap when and Dylan was multiple laps down. So Ty Gibbs finished 21st. But
So it wasn't like it was an epic battle for him to win that. I don't know.
I
It
think
just
the
seemed like they
whole
made a bigger deal out of it was.
yeah, that's what I say. That I think the whole bracket itself was ruined at Atlanta. I feel like it took out your star drivers. And although the Ty Gibbs or the Ty Dillon kind of Cinderella story coming through and watching him knock off upset after upset was fun and all, but once it really got to the end, it came down to Ty Gibbs, who everybody hates, and Ty Dillon, who we know is no good, and it just to what do they call them, nepotism, children, or whatever, running off their grandfather's money. Um, I know everybody was rooting for Dylan in this, but it just you kind of knew we had the most normal racetrack weekend. Ty Gibbs is in the best equipment in the field. It just you kind of saw it coming, and in the end, it just felt deflating.
Did you think that Ty was going to run better than this though? Well, I'm Ty Gibbs.
Yeah, I did think that, and I don't know if it. 'Cause I felt like he was in the top 10 there for a little bit at the start of this, but um, I just didn't know. I don't know how the strategies played out and why he was as far back as he was.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But yeah, overall, I didn't really care. I think it's hilarious that not Lionel's going to do a raced version of that car. Uh, I can't imagine anybody buying that other than Ty Gibbs fans, but I don't know. Uh, well, let's get this stuff out of the way right off at the top. Our picks, you had Tyler Reddick, who finished 29th. I had Austin Cindric, who finished 15th. Cindric looked like he was going to be in position to win the race at one time and had a tire go flat on him. Same thing with Joey Logano, was kind of in control there for a period of time, which was got my hopes back up that Logano was going to win the race, and he had a flat tire while leading as well on an alternative strategy. Um, Reddick got caught up in a crash with who was it that wrecked?
Was it Zane Smith when, or was it
When Bell hooked him?
Bell hooked one of the RFK or front row motorsports cars? I don't remember if it was a 38 or the 34, but
It was Zane, yeah.
Zane, yeah,
Um, yeah, I didn't know if it was that record. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was
yeah,
that wreck.
yeah. It was that
Um,
rack. I just remember when which one got turned.
and that, yeah, it was, he just had no place to go, and Reddick drove right into him, who was running pretty well at the time.
Yeah,
and
he
ended
decided to
up with
pit
a
at that one caution or whatever, and that put him in the back, and that ended his night.
yeah. And so he ends up with a 29th place finish, giving me the win with a 15th place finish. Much like the bracket challenge, not a great result on the day, but ends up getting the win. Uh, yeah. Who else were you considering picking besides Reddick?
Um, I think Bubba was going to be like my second choice, and then it had Denny Hamlin not wrecked in qualifying. I actually probably
Yeah.
would have picked him first, or else you would have, and then I would still would have
Yeah.
picked one of these other guys. But that was my consideration was Hamlin probably more over everybody else.
I was going into the weekend going, it's going to be Hamlin or Larson, and I'm going to pick whoever qualifies better. And neither one of them qualified great. uh, so I was like, I just don't know if Kyle Larson's got his mojo back yet. And I went with Austin Cindric instead. You really thought that Bubba was going to be a fast car this weekend?
Um, just the way all the Toyotas ran. I mean, in practice and qualifying, they had the fastest cars. So I he qualified front row, and Isaiah Reddick was right there with him, and I just felt like I had more trust in Reddick than Bubba, but I went the wrong way with that one, I guess. So, um, yeah,
Um, so yeah, Bubba Wallace ends up winning the race, wins it in an unchartered car. I mean, that's got to be no, that's not the first time. Shane would be the first time, right?
mm, I think so. I can't think of anything other than you could say before charters existed, but yeah,
Right. Yeah, in the charter era, I can't think of another unchartered car winning a race. And this is purely because of legal issues. It's not like,
yeah.
Shane's is obviously more impressive because he was just running the car for that weekend and won the race. Um, but yeah, first time in a while an uncharted car has won a race, right on the heels of this big legal battle. And now Bubba Wallace officially has more crown jewel victories than Chase Elliott.
Probably has more crown jewel victories than a lot of guys too.
Yeah, not
Chase at least has
champions
a
though.
championship though. That's
Yeah, that's true. But a lot of champions have crown jewel wins as well.
I don't know what point you're trying to make, but
I feel like I've done a very good job this past week of getting under your skin with Chase Elliott and Jeff Gordon comments. Uh, somebody posted that on Twitter, and I just had to work it in here to get your thoughts on that. Um, yeah, it's the kind of race it was very much strategic, and we would have assumed that going in that you're not going to see a lot of passing at Indianapolis. Um, and like we said, it's going to turn into a strategy race. That's kind of the given with this racetrack. Um, before we rate the race, I just want to know, A, were those your expectations? B, do you consider this a crown jewel race? And C, if I told you every time we come here that this is how the racing was going to be, if you don't consider it a crown jewel race, would you want it off the schedule?
I yes, this race. I think this race played out worse than I expected. I knew Dirty Air was going to be bad, but I felt like it was worse this year than it was last year. Um, I just feel like Kyle Larson was able to move his way through the field last year better than a lot of these guys. And I don't know if they all evened their cars up or whatnot that made it worse. Um, it feels weird. I'd always believed in this being a crown jewel race. Um, but I just feel like the Indianapolis Motor Speedway itself is such a historic track that I felt like NASCAR should be running there. Um, so I feel like the track has to stay. I just feel like you just got to figure out something with these cars to make it race better.
Okay. I'm okay with that logic, but you know that I like the racing of 20 years ago. Like I talk about it all the time. That's what you know, anytime a clip of that pops up on social media, I'm gonna watch it. After or going into Dover this past weekend, the clip of from 2006, of Matt Kenseth and Jeff Burton going at it was circulating heavily. I love that time frame in NASCAR and the type of cars that we had and just everything that went into making a NASCAR race weekend back at that time. Um, that being said, even then, it stunk at Indy. Like you didn't have good racing at Indy. And it's a big flat racetrack. You're not going to get it with a stock car. Like it's designed for Indy cars. It's not a NASCAR stock car designed racetrack. So I fully agree with you that because of the history that goes along with this speedway, I want to see NASCAR here every year, and I'm okay with it being this quality of racing. On a whole, did I think it was a good race? No, I didn't. But in the Jeff Gluck poll, I still voted yes because it was worse, like you said, than I would have expected going into Indy, but it's still like I wasn't expecting a barn burner. And I was just okay with how this turned out. I don't feel like Bubba lucked into it. I feel like you know, it's not like he stayed out on old tires and whatever and nobody could pass him. If he'd done that, that probably still would have been the case. But it just, Denny Hamlin talked about on his podcast, you had to be over a second faster than the car in front of you in order to pass him, which is ridiculous. Like that's a huge difference in speed. And for to have that much speed in order to pass the guy in front of you is that's rough to have it be that way. Um, and it definitely wasn't that bad 20 years ago, but I agree that you got to do some kind of change. I think no matter what racetrack you're at, the faster car should always be able to pass the slower one. It might take a few laps. You might have to use the whole racetrack to do it, but it should be able to it should be able to happen. And a lot of these tracks that we've been to with this car, that's not the case, Indy being one of them. But I don't think that that takes away from Bubba's ability to be the Brickyard 400 winner. I mean, I have no issue with him winning this race. I actually think that the cautions coming out and him having to beat Larson twice actually reinforces that more than anything.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I have no issue with how it played out, I guess, from what I was expecting it to play out. It just this car and this track, I think, just makes it way worse than what it could be.
Yeah. Yeah, you could say that about this car at pretty much any racetrack.
Yeah, true.
Um, so that leaves me with what your rating ends up being. What do you rate this race at?
I'm going, I don't know, I'm going three. I mean, the only thing that made it really kind of exciting was kind of the suspense of whether they were going to make it on fuel or not at the end, which is it
Yeah.
just watching cars cut off the air and the car having behind you losing all its downforce and shooting up the track it just stinks. I mean, not to take anything away from Bubba, he did and executed perfectly what he had to do the race, but Larson was most definitely a faster car because he was 5 seconds behind before the first caution for rain, and he was. I don't know if he'd have caught Bubba, but even if he did, he wasn't getting around him, and it
Yeah.
just you can't have that. And as we go, if we talk about the Xfinity series, obviously we'll talk about Austin Hill, but we saw what Eric Almirola was able to get up to his bumper and move him out of the way. I mean, that package isn't the greatest either, but at least that if you faster than the guy in front of you, you can get by him, and that's
Yeah.
just what I see.
Yeah. So you're giving it a three. I'm gonna give it a five because it literally is like right in the middle of what I expected. Um, it it didn't get me excited and didn't bum me out. It was pretty much what I figured Indy would be. Didn't expect Bubba to be the car that won the race. Would have been very not at all surprised if Larson won. Um, but yeah, it just no issues with how it played out. It is the way that it is. We talked off the top about it being a strategy race. You know, I was thinking about this today. As I mentioned that foregone era of 20 years ago. with the Gen 4 cars and everything. Did it seems like every week, every race is a strategy race, what you would have called a strategy race 20 years ago. Like it's all about when are you going to be in your fuel window, which plays a factor at every racetrack. But back in the day, it was caution comes out, you're going to pit for tires and you're going to fill it up with fuel. And now the window moves to where with this car, it's like you're trying to do is spend the least amount of time on pit road possible. And it seems like every week, every racetrack that we go to, it's all strategy based. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's almost as if you can't pass a guy, save as much fuel as you can, so we can put less fuel on it on the next pit stop, so we can pass him. Hopefully, he burns more fuel and has to have a longer pit stop. It's almost feel like they're working more to pass on pit road than they are pass on the track.
Yeah. Yeah, it's depressing to just see that it's working out that way. At every racetrack, not just Indy. And but man, that's just not what you want to see. We talked about the Penske car's tire issues. We talked about how dirty the air is. Um, Before we move to the Xfinity series, I just wanted to say that the video that NASCAR came out with for the San Diego race, they announced that there was going to be a San Diego. You still call it a street course race? I mean, that's essentially what it is, right? On a naval base,
That's what I would call it, I guess. Yeah,
some sort of a road course race. Um, and the video that NASCAR media put out with that was incredible. I thought it was great. I thought it was entertaining and very well done. That's one area where they're hitting on it really well, I think, in this sport. There's not too many things that I can look at NASCAR, the organization, and say, you're doing a good job. But that's one of them. And I thought that whoever does their video production is doing well, doing really good. Um, the other side of that being the TV media having to have such a big piece of the pie and say in how the sport works. Disappointed in that. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. And these people that are on Sirius XM, Channel 90, being the mouthpieces for NASCAR, trashing people that are on the playoff committee now. Um, you know, don't feel great about that either. I like Larry McReynolds. I got a lot of respect for him. Davey Allison's crew chief, won a Daytona 500 with Dale Earnhardt, and I think even now on Fox, he's one of the better pieces of that broadcast because he actually provides some intelligence to it and uh, is on top of things. Like he knows what the strategy is. He knows how things are supposed to work. And for both him and Danielle Trotta to kind of say what they said and then backtrack from there about um, basically out of touch former drivers is just like you got to be kidding me. That we'll touch more on that here in a minute. But the notable point scores were Briscoe winning the first stage, Blaney winning the second stage, and Denny Hamlin with the Xfinity fastest lap. Anything else that you wanted to hit on from the Cup race before we move to Xfinity?
that's all I've got.
Yeah, not a whole lot of action to talk about there. The Xfinity side, Junior Motorsports wins their 100th race. It's three races in a row for Connor Zilisch that he ends up winning. Um, I texted you because I was catching the very tail end of the race that Allgaier was leading and was going to win. He was going to be the one to deliver Junior the 100th victory. And on one of those restarts, I texted you and I said, how's Allgaier going to choke this away? And it turns out he was just going to have what is considered the greatest driver in the world start to his inside and end up stepping on it again and putting them both in a position to where Allgaier got the worst of it into the wall and all banged up and had to go to the infield care center. Uh, what do you make of all that? What were your thoughts when you saw that go down?
I was just all guy is the guy I root for in the Xfinity series. I kind of root for JRM as a whole, but and I would consider Larson kind of my second favorite driver in the Cup Series. So I have so two of the guys I like the most kind of took each other out there to restart. But yeah, I felt like Justin uh, chose the high side as the leader. Um, I mean, that could have been himself choking it away, taking the inside instead of the outside. But I felt like Larson got loose, and if he'd have saved it, it would have worked out for Justin. But it just Larson drove it in hard and hoping it would stick, and he used up the guy outside of him to keep a hold of it. So I mean, I just a racing incident, just a couple guys trying hard for a race win.
Are you disappointed in Larson for that?
A little bit, yeah.
Do you
uh,
feel like he should have been in more control in that situation?
I think so. I mean, I would think he expect to be being underneath another guy that he's going to lose. His car is going to get loose at some point because with those Xfinity cars, the guy on the outside could take away a lot of your side force. And I don't know if I felt like Justin still gave him a little bit of room before that side force was all gone. He still lost it. So he just trying a little bit hard. I would have expected a little bit cleaner of a drive from Larson at that point, but he's an aggressive driver, and sometimes he just goes over that edge.
Yeah, that's true. Taylor Gray was leading the race and in position to win it. Um, and Connor Zilisch ended up pulling up on his back bumper off a turn two a couple of times and just got at that back end to step out on him, get the run to the inside. And that was good racing to me. I mean, it wasn't mile and a half high banked oval good racing, but I mean, for Indianapolis, it was good. I enjoyed watching that. I was rooting for Taylor Gray and even Sam Mayer. I didn't want to see the junior car win, but it, uh, it was interesting to watch no matter what. I like the fact that that's an option for those guys with those race cars. Uh, Kind of disappointing for Taylor to be in a position to win yet another race and just not be able to, through no fault of his own. I mean, Connor had the faster car, and Connor put him in a bad spot to where he was just not in control of his race car, and which is what racers are supposed to do. And that's exactly what Connor should have done. And I don't know, you just feel bad for Taylor. Uh, Getting an opportunity to be in a good car like this and not being able to pull it off a couple times here. I guess you could argue the fact that, if he was a really good race car driver, that um, he would be pulling it off. But I don't know. I've still got some faith in the guy, and I'm looking forward to seeing him win a race, even if he only wins a handful of races in the Xfinity Series and that's it. And never gets the jump to Cup. I'd still like to see him win, I think.
Yeah, I keep an eye on him. I'm like he's probably one of the only Joe Gibbs driver I'll I'll ever root for. But if he's up front and he wins, I don't have nothing against it. I keep forgetting to look back at that Mexico race when he finished second to um, Daniel Suarez. That race, Suarez did not earn points or money because he was on the provisional for an international driver because he wrecked in qualifying. So
Mm.
I thought I heard that if he won, the second place driver still got the winning points and playoff points. So that's something I got to go back and check. But obviously, he doesn't get credited with a win in that situation. But he may have got the playoff points from it. But um, yeah, he's definitely up front all the time. I think he's going to pull one out here one of these days. He probably should have one at Martinsville if it wasn't for Sammy Smith driving four car links from behind and taking them out. But that's
Yeah.
that's racing.
No, that's not. That's
Well, it's
not.
wrecking, I guess. But
I know what you're saying. Um, as much as we drooled over SVG in the Cup Series, you kind of have to drool over Connor Zilisch a little bit. Hottest prospect in NASCAR right now. I don't think you can argue that. Um,
is he a prospect if we already know where he's going, or is it?
that's a good
Oh,
point. I mean, we
yeah,
we are operating under the assumption he's driving the 99 car next year, right?
yeah. That's
I mean,
how
that's
I'm.
just
That's my assumption.
yeah. I'm with you on that. I think that that's more than likely the case. I don't know really how to even phrase this question because it, who was the last? First of all, I guess my question would be who comes to mind as being the last big name driver that you can remember getting a lot of hype as they worked their way up through the ranks? And do you remember them being successful in Cup when they got there? And do you think that Zilisch will be successful when he gets to Cup?
Um, I know there was a lot of hype around Chase Elliott. He ran some select truck starts and ran top five there. I mean, he got his one win in the truck series at the part-time schedule, albeit he kind of took out, well, I think it was Ty Dillon in that race. But I know when he first started winning Xfinity Series, they was hyped up about that. He won back-to-back races for his first two wins or whatever. They were so excited for him to come to the Cup Series at that point. Obviously, he had success. Um, I can't, off the top of my head, think of anybody else right now. I mean, Ty Gibbs, there was a lot of hype around him winning a lot of races in his Joe Gibbs equipment and stuff, but his success hasn't quite panned. Well, I guess he won the greatest prize of all, $1 million, but but other
Really,
than that, I feel
really,
like
I think that's as good as a COVID championship.
but I feel like they probably feel as his Cup career so far has been a failure at that he hasn't got that win yet or ran as well as I think he probably should have. Um, those are the only couple of names that pop into my head right now.
Okay, so I'm gonna push pause on this conversation and slide it over here for a second, and I want to ask a different question. Do you think that over the course of his career, Ty Gibbs will earn more or less wins than Bubba Wallace?
Until Ty proves to me that he can be consistent and win, right now I gotta say Bubba Wallace. I feel like even though Bubba Wallace hasn't clicked off a lot of wins, he's been more consistent than Ty. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see that. Okay, pushing play back on this and moving it over here. Um, I remember, I guess to me, the one that comes to mind is Tyler Reddick. I feel like he was hyped up a lot as being really good, and they pulled Hemrick out of that car and put Reddick in it, and then he ends up being the big name and goes to 2311. Um, but Denny Hamlin mentioned something a few weeks ago on his podcast as well that said that you play baseball and you come up through the different divisions. I mean, you got high A, low A, double A, triple A, and then Major League Baseball. And he said that the jump from Xfinity to Cup is a greater one than triple A to MLB or college to pro football. And I think that you see that time and time again. I mean, Harrison Burton killed it in the Xfinity series, came up here, did nothing. Ty Gibbs so far has done nothing. Has had some good runs, but essentially did nothing. Has done nothing so far in one of the two greatest teams in the sport right now, and consistently one of the two greatest teams. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what Zilich does. He's had nothing but success everywhere he's been. If he gets in that 99 Cup car next year and he's running 18th to 20th every week, what's that going to do for him? Like Junior's already said he's got the potential to be a multi-time champion in the sport. I don't disagree with him, but it's not, you're not watching a AAA ball player hit, 10 home runs in 11 games and bat 400. It's just not the same thing. It's um I don't know. It's it's apples and oranges. It's just too big a jump to say, yes, he's going to come up to the Cup Series and he's going to have success. He's a great prospect. He's really good in the Xfinity Series. He won 3 races in a row. He's a killer on road courses. He could be one of those guys that, when you go to the road course, it's not, oh, this is SVG's race to win. It's, oh, this is Connor Zilich. And by the way, he could win next week at the Oval too. And I think that that could be the combination, or it could be, yeah, the 99 car, they're out to lunch again today. I don't know what you're going to get. It could be either one.
Yeah, and the jump in these cars is so much greater than it used to be also. So it's harder to judge a guy. I Zilich has only had one or a couple of starts this year. I remember Coda, he got taken out by the car he's going to be replacing um, Suarez there, but he started in the back, and I don't remember if he started in the back or he got caught up in that first lap incident at Coda, but he'd worked himself back up into the top 15 in his first start. So I think he's going to be a threat most definitely on the road courses in this car. How that translates to ovals, I think will be better than SVG, but whether it'll be to the level of, let's say, Ross Chastain ovals in that same equipment, how much greater it'll be than that, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that'll be a good benchmark is Ross Chastain to see where he's running in relationship to him. Um, well, I guess since we're running a little low on time here, let's just hit the last major point here. And that is that the main storyline coming out of the Xfinity Series race is the Austin Hill situation. Eric Almirola was faster than him. He was on fresher tires. Austin Hill had nose damage to the car. And Almirola, I didn't watch the battle because it wasn't necessarily on the TV coverage, but Almirola said he ran him down. He was there, he was there, he was there, and finally he was like, I gotta go. And Almirola said that he still felt like he had a shot to win the race, which I don't think was probably true, but that was his feeling. And he moved the 21, and when he did, he hit him hard enough that much like Taylor Gray did, he got the back end, stepped out, bounced off the wall, and attempted to gather it up and did gather it up. Like you saw that car straight for half a second and he had control of it. And then you just see those white gloves swerve to the left and he hooks Almirola head first into the wall. I had been working on some other projects at my house and came came to my mom's house and I'm sitting there in the living room. We've got the Xfinity race on and I'm watching it and there's like chatter going on around the living room. And I see that happen. And I said, he did that on purpose. Like I wasn't even glued into the race. And I saw that and I was like, uh-oh, he wrecked him on purpose. That was my initial reaction, 100% the first time, no questions. Like he wrecked him on purpose. And then it was like, okay, this is a suspension. So let's look at it and make sure that I'm not just overreacting to this. They show the replay and I'm like, he wrecked him on purpose. And they showed another angle. He wrecked him on purpose. And then you can see the white gloves going, hooking that car to the left. He wrecked him on purpose. I've never seen fans more unified on Twitter. I didn't see anybody sticking up for him on Twitter on Saturday night of that he was still trying to gather the car up. It was 100% just Austin Hill saying that. Nobody else believed him.
Yeah, the only people I saw
Is that what you
argue,
saw too?
yeah, pretty much. Only I don't know if these people try what they call it rage bait or whatever, but other people. The only other thing I saw is that not that Austin Hill didn't do it on purpose, but that Eric Almirola deserved it, which I really don't agree with. So that's about the only argument I saw on Twitter. But I don't know if they're just trying to rile people up or what.
Hey, I'm not the biggest Almirola fan, and there's a lot of guys that, I don't mind seeing their race car wadded up at the end of the day. I don't root for anybody to be thrown headfirst into the wall. Nobody. I'm not into that. Um, but it didn't seem like anybody was looking at Eric's actions and going, or Austin's actions and going, nah, he didn't do it on purpose. Like everybody was united around the fact that this was intentional.
Yeah.
And did you? How, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident were you NASCAR was going to suspend him?
Oh, I was a 10 by the end of all of this, especially after his comments on pit road. I think NASCAR decided they had to make an example of him.
Yeah, he had some very not nice things to say about NASCAR on the radio on pit road. They held him for 5 laps after the incident, so even in real time, he must have felt he was guilty of something wrong. Uh, and then, which is a pretty good indication. But I was like an 8 out of 10 just because you never know if NASCAR is going to make the right decision.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Well,
they,
this isn't a first offense for Austin Hill. I can relate back or remember back to last year. I think it was at Charlotte, and him and Cole Custer got together, and uh, Austin Hill just shoved him down the back straight away after they were already wrecked and flung Custer down the track. And I don't remember if Custer wrecked some more or whatever. And I think there was a incident between Hill and uh, Johnny Sauter in a truck series back in the day when Hill was in the Toyota equipment or something. I think they kind of had a fight back and forth with their trucks. So um, Austin Hill has gotten into fights and talking tos and threatening people out of the car. I'm going to punch you if you do this. And I remember there was a video of him throwing a haymaker at someone else. Was it Mike Snyder or whatever at Martinsville or something? Um, he was part of the big wrecks at the last couple Martinsville races that were dirty races by most of the Xfinity cars that Hill is a part of too. And it just, Hill just is a hothead when things don't go his way. And I don't know if he's going to be right for the sport if he can't keep his cool if something doesn't go his way.
Yeah. That's hard to argue with there. Do you ever notice how much you and Austin Hill look alike?
I don't want to hear that ever again.
But you understand that it's true.
I do not understand nothing.
All right. I take it you're not a fan of his.
No,
Yeah, I haven't been a fan of Austin Hill for a long time. Um,
I used to be fairly neutral at the beginning of his career and stuff and whatnot, but it just keeps every little instant of it happens, it just keeps going down and down. At this point, I hope he doesn't make it in this sport.
wow. Um, yeah, I can't disagree with you there. Yeah, but NASCAR did end up suspending him. He loses his playoff points, all that he's earned and all that he will earn up until the playoffs start. Still need some clarification on whether or not he's still locked into the playoffs or if he has to re-earn a spot into the playoffs. I'm treating it as though he is still locked into the playoffs and not 100% sure what the writing on the wall says as far as what his eligibility is. So we'll try to provide a little clarification on that in the future. Um, there was a couple other topics that I wanted to get into tonight, but we're not going to be able to make it, so we'll save that for another show. It's nothing pressing to this time. We were going to kind of talk a little bit about the point system. There's a lot of discussion around that right now, but we'll save that for another show. And I had also texted you earlier in the day to kind of talk about what we would do if we were the kings of NASCAR and what changes we had made would make if we could just snap our fingers and have it change. So give us a little more time to marinate on that, I guess, for another show. Maybe Iowa will be a boring race, and we'll have time to talk about that then. Uh, Judging by the state of the actual garage area that we are going to be sharing, hopefully in the near future, but the way that it's set up right now, they're installing drywall in the house, and everything that I own is now stored in that basement. I can barely walk through it, and I know that you can't get through it at the moment because of everything that's in there. So it's probably going to be a while before we're able to record in person. So that's going to leave us limited time on a Zoom call in the meantime. Uh, Next week, Cup and Xfinity go to Iowa. The trucks are off. Don't forget to follow our socials on X at Garage Area, Instagram at the Garage Area, TikTok at the.garage.area. And as I said last week, we'll try to clean those up a little bit so that they all make a little more sense and you don't have three different handles for three different apps. You can follow me and Ryan personally on X. I'm Adam White underscore 2022 underscore 22, not 2022. And Ryan is at Ryan WW924 because he's got his favorite driver's numbers in his handle, which actually makes a lot of sense. Uh,
Although
but
22 is not your favorite driver.
it is, it is. But I don't have like my historic favorite driver and my current favorite driver in there.
Well, Chase
It makes it
started
look
out
like
in a
you're a
24 also,
Diamond
so
fan. It's true. All right, we're out of time, so we appreciate everybody that watched and listened. And that's going to be it from the garage area. We'll talk to you after Iowa.